Morning. Today we are going to do something a little bit interesting for you. Again, keeping it in the real estate vein. I'm going to do another video because of obviously current economical, social, political kind of things that have just taken place. As we all know, the new president-elect has been selected. So in the next video, I'm going to do some things that are more problem-solving in nature and something that could help us out, not only in life, in business, but kind of globally, not just locally in that sense. But today is going to be a little bit more fun because this is something that I've been dealing with a lot here recently in different discussions, and I realized everybody could use it. Whether you own a home now or whether you're looking to buy a home in the future, this is something that maybe, again, your real estate agents that you're working with should be telling you, and things that they should be cognizant about, but maybe not necessarily all of them are aware of. So I'll call this the resale issues that buyers often don't think about, or maybe your agent's not telling you about, because this can affect you if you have to go sell later on. Meaning, like, say you're in the military, which, obviously you know that you could get orders, but those orders can constantly change. And how does that affect you in resale? How does that affect you long term? You got to look at picking the right home when you go to buy it, and this is very much a part of it. Number one issue I'll say is, when you're looking at homes, try to avoid homes with power lines. I know that's difficult in some areas of the country. It's difficult, in some areas of Virginia where we are. But again, there's a lot of myths that surround it. The reason for that being is that they say that there's radiation, it can make you sick. There's a bunch of myths about it. I don't know the particular studies, but obviously with this type of information circulating, it draws concerns to any buyer. And also, maybe you bought it for $240,000 now, but as an example, but later, you say the market's at a lower place, and then your neighborhood's at a different cycle. You could end up having to sell for less if you're closer to the power lines, which ends up hurting your investment in the first place. So something else, newer subdivisions. Now, I know this might go against the grain for some of you, and you'll ask why, but I'm going to explain this. When you're getting a new construction home, you have not gone through real estate cycles. Now, you got to look at, again, every neighborhood has its individual cycle. The area has an individual cycle, but then, cascade out from the country. I mean, it could be a buyer's, a seller's market in one area. It could be, a little bit of a combination of both in some areas of the country. But when it comes down to looking at, again, the resale side of it, when you're in a new subdivision and buy a new construction home, that is more of a long-term process, because you don't know how, when the whole neighborhood is going to be complete, what the final sales are going to look like, and then again, how that cycle is going to look. So you got to make sure that you understand that prices today in building a home are much more expensive than buying a resale home that was built at the same size maybe 20 years ago. And so keep that in mind when you're looking at reselling. Not necessarily do you want to buy a new construction home if you got to sell a home here maybe in the next 5-10 years. Just a suggestion. Again, this is some broad information to kind of help you think before you make this purchase. Another thing, if you're neighboring businesses, you're very close to businesses, this can affect your quality of life. It can affect boundary lines. It can affect a lot of things depending on what the city, the localities, the states, the businesses, all this stuff does. You're going to look at a neighboring business. Say they've got delivery at all hours. I mean, you've got people coming in and out, and you've got to deal with those issues. It's discomforting for some families. Other families, it's noise concerns. You just got to think about how this could affect you in the long term, also in resale. Because if you don't want to deal with it, why would somebody else? Next thing, look at like environmental concerns. Like if you live in a particularly swampy area, again, environmental concerns locally here in Virginia, because we're a coastline, where I'm at, you got flood insurance concern, flood areas, areas that are higher prone to flooding, which means, houses either have to be built up, you got a higher insurance cost, you got a lot of things that can concern you, which adds more money you got to spend every month for something just to protect your home. So that's something that you need to be really take into concern, because it could hurt your resale. It could hurt how you protect the value of that home in the long run. And then also what another buyer may or may not want to deal with at that time, you don't know because you're not them. So next thing, look at noisy areas, stuff that's particularly close to like major roads, highways, railroad tracks, commercial areas where there's a lot of, industrial equipment, things like that. If you're hearing noises, again, it becomes a little bit taken away from the quality of life. When you own a home, you want to live there, you want to feel peace, you want to feel quiet, you want to feel safe, you want your kids to feel safe. So this is something that, again, can be just a distraction, whether subtle or, pretty massive. And the last thing, particular areas of privacy. Some people don't prefer to back up to another home or be too close to homes. And, you got to look at the trade-off for that. You don't want to back up to like a travel road or be on a highly traveled road. These things can hurt your resale. These things can hurt your quality of living, but then also think on the flip side, it can hurt somebody else. So again, these are kind of just some tips to look at when you're deciding to purchase a home, because again, eventually you're going to probably have to resell at some point, whether it's 2, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. All these things can play an effect on you. You have some other things like layouts and things like that can become more particular. But really, when it comes down to looking at your home when you go to purchase it, you don't just want to look at the finances and how you can afford it. You don't just want to look at the nice new shiny thing. You want to look at what the potential is for resale. Real estate is not a short-term game unless you're into flipping properties, and not necessarily anymore nowadays isn't as short-term as people would like it to be. So you're more of an investor. But when you're looking to purchase a home for yourself, you definitely need to consider these resale kind of faux pas, these things that I'm giving you here that could affect your resale pricing. The length of time it takes you to resale, all those things can be affected by the things I just told you. So take a look. Ask me some questions. Happy to help you out in any way I possibly can. But this is something that hopefully for everybody, pass this to your agent. Ask them, to look and help you do this research on these areas when you're there. And then also you do the research by yourself, because it's really important that you know what home you're buying and what the potential is for that plan to change later on and how that can affect you. So look forward to speaking to you all. Thank you again for tuning into the videos. I hope all is well. Look forward to talking to you soon.